The U.S. Supreme Court temporarily extends access to mail-order Mifepristone, a widely used abortion drug. Justice Samuel Alito's order earlier this week also says the abortion drug will remain available from pharmacies or through the mail and can be obtained without an in-person visit to a doctor. The order expires later this week as the court considers the next steps in the case. The news from the Supreme Court comes as the Trump administration rolls out a new website with pro-life resources. Moms.gov launched on Mother's Day. It aims to promote life-affirming pregnancy information to expecting parents, including links to pregnancy resource centers. This is part of President Trump's plan to increase fertility. The website does not reference in vitro fertilization, but a new proposal from the Department of Labor is seeking to expand health insurance coverage options to IVF. The Catholic Church opposes IVF because it separates fertilization from the marital act and results in the destruction of millions of human embryos that are never implanted. For more, we turn to Jennie Bradley Lichter, president of the March for Life and a Harvard Law graduate. Jennie, thank you for being with us. First off, is this order from Justice Alito a surprise? And what was your reaction when you first heard the news?
Thanks, Abby. Always a pleasure to be with you. So Justice Alito is what's called the circuit justice for the Fifth Circuit. So any emergency petition from the Fifth Circuit goes to him, which is good news, of course, for pro-lifers. I'm not concerned about his order to temporarily reinstate abortion by mail. That's pretty standard procedure. I would be surprised if the Supreme Court wanted to leave such a massive nationwide regulatory change in place, especially because they are planning to issue a more lasting decision really within a few days, right? So Justice Alito had initially indicated that there would be a decision from the court earlier this week. Then he extended this kind of current interim pause on the Fifth Circuit's decision. And now we're anticipating hearing from the court tomorrow. He currently has the stay, the administrative stay, it's called, set to lift tomorrow. So tomorrow we should be getting an actual ruling from the court telling us whether they're going to leave the current status quo in place of abortion by mail being available, or if they're going to affirm the Fifth Circuit's decision to pause abortion by mail while the underlying litigation continues. The third wildcard possibility is if the court does feel like there's so much kind of meatiness to this case and they want to have a little bit more time and information to consider it, they could set it for oral argument, which would be pretty wild because the oral argument is over for the year. The last scheduled argument was April 29th, but the court has done this in the past for cases that come up on emergency posture that they want to have a little bit more engagement with. So it'll be really interesting to see what the court decides to do tomorrow.
Yes. Now, switching gears a little bit, we mentioned the moms.gov website. What do you think of the website and some of the Trump administration's outreach to pro-lifers?
I love moms.gov. So the first thing you see when you look at moms.gov, which is really a lovely website, the first thing you see as you scroll down is information about PRCs, telling moms what they are and helping them find a PRC in their area. But the website isn't just for moms in challenging or unplanned pregnancies. There's all kinds of resources on it that, I would have loved this website when I was expecting my 3 kids. There's information about nutrition during pregnancy, about breastfeeding with a lot of breastfeeding support and resources, maternal mental health, sleep safety, nutrition for your kids as well as yourself. So it's a really great resource, and it's something the pro-life movement has been asking for a long time because, it's when we talk about supporting moms, it's really important not just that these resources exist, but that moms can easily find them, right? Because what use is it to a mom if there's a PRC in their community, but they never have a way to discover it or know what they offer? So I think really the great benefit of moms.gov is going to be closing the information gap that sometimes contributes to driving women towards having abortions just because that's the most easily accessible or easily available option. So really neat thing to roll out on Mother's Day, and I encourage folks to check it out. I think it's going to do a lot of good.
That's great. Another story we're following are reports that the interim head of the FDA once represented Planned Parenthood in a 2016 court case. Jennie, what can you tell us about this?
Sure. So I actually had an opportunity to speak with Kyle Diamantas, the new acting FDA commissioner, last night. In other words, within a few hours of being handed this big new job, he was getting on the phone with pro-life leaders. And that in itself, I think, is a really encouraging sign of where his priorities are going to be. So I had a chance to just talk with him really frankly and directly about my concerns about mifepristone. It's the lack of safety, the lack of guardrails, its easy availability. And he was able to share with me about his plans and his priorities. And I came away from that conversation last night feeling pretty good that the FDA under his leadership is going to really move on this safety study they've been talking about for a long time, right? But I think we're going to see real movement. And I think that the cause of life is going to have, a real champion at the FDA. And that's terrific. Now, it is true, as you said, Abby, that when he was a young attorney about a decade ago, he was on a case team that represented a Planned Parenthood affiliate in litigation in Florida. I asked him about that because I was concerned by those reports as well. And what he shared with me is that, yes, when he was a new lawyer, essentially a brand new lawyer at his law firm, he was told that he was going to be put on this case. And like a lot of young lawyers, he just didn't really think that he had a choice. He wasn't presented with a choice. However, after he got his footing under him at the firm, he told me he asked to be taken off the case and just expressed his conscientious objections and his discomfort with the case. He's Catholic, he's pro-life, and he didn't want to be representing Planned Parenthood. And once he had sort of established himself at the firm, he voiced that concern, and the partner he was working for was willing to take him off the case. So that's the story as he shared it, and unfortunately, it's a story that I've heard before. I was very lucky when I was a young lawyer to work in a firm that was really respectful of people's moral and religious commitments, but a lot of firms really aren't. And often, as a brand new lawyer, you aren't asked; you're told what your caseload is going to be. But the bottom line, I think, is that was a decade ago and about a different, it just doesn't have anything to do with the issues that are currently before the FDA. So I understand why that caught people's eye. And of course, it's good to ask questions and hold people accountable, hold our leaders accountable. But again, just based on my own conversations with Acting Commissioner Diamantas, I feel really comfortable that he is bringing in strong pro-life commitments and a commitment to transparency and to moving with all deliberate speed to take a close look at mifepristone and then take decisive action based on what that study shows.
Well, Jennie, thank you for giving us that inside scoop, and thank you for being with us today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.